what did you think about the Sparrows?
Throughout the season, you see posters of them plastered all over the city. Crime is the problem, we are the solution. Gave off the boys kind of vibes. They feel like the seven from the boys to me. They're more celebrities, especially with Marcus doing handstand push-ups on the roof of the building and then wiping his sweat and throwing the towel off into a crowd below. That just feels so...
I was going to say the same thing. The treadmill scene where they're talking about popularity and money. Yeah, it felt a lot like the boys, except for not as like brutal, like a PG-13 version of the seven in the boys.
Right. They were definitely more concerned with PR, probably because at this time they might have dealt with all their villains already.
But yeah, I really liked them. I absolutely loved the introduction. The whole first episode was phenomenal. The introduction of the Sparrows, how it went through each one. The beginning of the first episode of the season mirrors the beginning of the first episode of the first season so much. And I loved the introductions of each of the characters. I felt that they were pretty compelling. I feel like some of them did not get as much as I kind of hoped they would.
You mean in terms of screen time?
Yeah, one in terms of screen time, but also in terms of the story, I really felt like the marketing of this season was really hyping up the whole Sparrows versus Umbrella dynamic. However, when it came down to it, that was really just the first episode. And the rest of the season really wasn't about Sparrows versus Umbrellas. And they had issues. They definitely were butting heads after that, between the times that Victor and Allison would go and talk to Ben and Faye, as well as the part where Alfonso and Jamie get killed. I felt like they were really marketing this season as like a head to head, but like they head to head in the first episode, and then literally it's like nothing after. So I felt like overall the Sparrows were a little anticlimactic, even though I enjoyed what we did get of each of them.
I would agree. Half of them did feel like they weren't super necessary. And I was still a little confused on some of their powers. So Alfonso was the man with the disfigured face, and he had abilities that if you hurt him, you ended up getting hurt instead. But at one point, when him and Diego are fighting, Diego kind of knocks off a piece of his face, and Diego doesn't have that damage. So it just seemed a little strange to me.
They were pretty loose with the continuity of his abilities for sure. I feel like Alfonso and Jamie specifically kind of got a short end of the stick. Like even Marcus, even though he dies in the first episode, at the end of the first episode, I feel like they gave him quite a bit to do in that first episode. But like Alfonso and Jamie kind of just like did a couple things. Like they barely had lines, did a couple things, and then they got killed by Harlan, just to kind of like reduce the number of people. I would have been interested in a little bit more actual Umbrella on Sparrow fight scenes,
As opposed to just chucking cans of green beans at each other in a supermarket.
I mean, that was good. That was good. We got the first episode and we got the Diego fight with Alfonso. And then that was pretty much it, because then they go to confront them and Jamie and Alfonso get killed by Harlan, and then they don't really fight from them. Like they kind of butt heads a little bit, but they don't actually fight from then on, and it becomes all about the Kugelblitz.
Like, what's up with Christopher just being a cube? Was he born that way, do you think?
That is a good question. I've heard a lot of people wonder if in that stroller in the beginning, if there's just a cube in there or not. I think they play him just the right amount where he says something and like people respond. Obviously the audience has no clue what he's saying. And I don't think they overuse the joke. I don't think they do. I enjoyed it.
No, it was pulled to great effect. Very similar to like a Han and Chewie kind of relationship.
Yeah, I especially loved the first episode when they first run into each other. They're like dissing each other, and then Christopher makes that noise and they all laugh. And like the umbrellas are just like, what? And then, there's also Faye, the one with the birds. Her powers are kind of confusing.
Right, because it seemed like they came out of her, but then she's caring for them.
They do seem like they come out of her, but she can also see them.
Right, she can see them, see through them, and at one point she's caring for them in a rookery. Is that what that's called?
She's probably the weakest of all the Sparrow characters to me. She kind of just felt very one note to me. Besides maybe like Jamie, who like maybe had one line in the whole thing.
But honestly, her powers intrigued me the most of the Sparrows, I think.
Yeah.
And I feel like they could have gone a lot more places with that.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Age of the Geek.